fine, good day to all listeners and all defenders of awesomeness, whether in Montreal or around the world or elsewhere or on the interwebs. Welcome to episode number 8 of the DayLight webcast. I am your host, Olivier Day, and yet again, here live from, okay, this is a very intimate moment right now because this is not my usual background. I usually do this from my office. But right now, considering the fact that we're doing this, I usually do these interviews a little bit later in the evening, but today being Sunday, 11 a.m., I didn't factor in the fact that my baby, hyperactive 1.5-year-old, would not let me, conceal the audio properly for the sanctity of this interview. So now we're live. You guys have primary access to my man cave. And my next guest is very familiar with my man cave because he is a dear friend. And why I want to have him here today, as you guys know, these conversations are mostly about passion and consideration for one's craft and dedication to achieving one's vision, whether it's through photography, art, writing, or otherwise. Whatever your shtick is, I want to know about it because I believe passion is something that is truly, truly inherent to one's core being, and you always should follow your personal values. And my next guest is someone who's always very impressed me with his passion for his craft and his love for cinematography. My next conversations are basically going to be, it's not totally photography centric. He's one of the smartest people I know, basically. He refuses to admit it. No, he knows it. But yeah, you guys will you'll make your own opinions. But Eric Lafalaise is a true and near and dear friend, a very, very talented filmmaker, film critic, a very, very, very passionate writer, and all-around social critic. Sometimes controversial. You'll let him talk to you about why he didn't like Inception, but some of the many conversations we're going to have today. So, Eric, thank you so much for being here, and welcome. Welcome to the webcast. How are you doing, my friend?
Doing good, as usual. How are you doing?
Doing good, my friend. Doing good. Thank you so much for being here. As I said, as I told you, I just wanted you to be on the webcast because you and I have had so many conversations, so many opportunities to actually share about creativity and life and passion and everything in between, near, dear, and far. So I really wanted to touch base with you about basically what's going on, not just in the film industry, where you see the industry headed, television, or is it a dying breed? With the cord cutting and everything, with Netflix taking even more of a chunk out of the primary Hollywood pie, and what is going on in basically your personal perspective, since you do have a very singular one. So thank you for being here. But just for those who don't know you, and they should, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you're very impassioned with filmmaking, and I've never asked you this. How did you get started into filmmaking? What got you started? What was the spark?
The spark was Stargate, the movie. And it's a really interesting story. I guess when Stargate came out, I think the early 90s, maybe 91, 92, I was living in Haiti at the time, and I went to see the movie. And at one point during the film, I realized, I think they were shooting lasers or something, and I realized you could do anything you wanted with enough money. And I think it's the point that I told myself, I want to do that. I want to be a filmmaker. I want to create worlds that don't exist, and I want to immerse you in that world. I want to make you feel like you're part of an experience which is not in your regular life,
Mm-hmm.
And I want to through emotions. At the time, I didn't know that it was more broader than that. It was more of a penchant. But at that point, it was, I want to do that.
Wow.
I want to make stuff blow up on the screen. That's what I want to do.
So
that's what got me started. Like Stargate. So now I look at Stargate and I say it's not the greatest movie in the world, but for me it has this special importance that showed me what I wanted to do.
So in terms of your personal taste, are you more into fiction? Are you more into documentaries? How would you describe your craft? How would you describe what you're more leaning towards in terms of your personal or do you just like whatever palette, I'll draw it?
I'm. I think I've always been more attracted to off the beaten path stories. I'm more of a fantasy guy. I'm more of a science fiction guy, and I think it has to do with the fact that good science fiction, not all science fiction, that we're not talking about Paycheck with Ben Affleck here, but good science fiction always challenges you to look at yourself and realize that maybe you're not headed in the right path. And I think fantasy also does that. It forces you to look like if you look at Game of Thrones, for example, a lot of people have been talking about Game of Thrones this year because of the violence and because of the sex. But Game of Thrones confronts you to that. It confronts you to our relationship with sex and violence. And instead of talking about our relationship, people just are fixated on specific things that happen in Game of Thrones, like Cersei got raped. But it's part of a broader conversation about like why does she get raped in Game of Thrones? Why does Game of Thrones have this rape scene? And it has this rape scene because it's representing something we don't want to talk about. So let's talk about it. And next Game of Thrones won't have it on, you know. So
I have to
yeah,
thank you.
I think what yeah.
No, the thing is, I'm sorry to cut you off. It's just that the second you mentioned Game of Thrones, I'm just thinking you're the only reason I ever got into the Game of Thrones because I actually got into it during like the mid part of season 3, and you're just like you just wanted to slap me upside the head, it's like how come you're not watching Game of Thrones? You should watch Game of Thrones. It is the show to watch. You should not die without seeing Game of Thrones, and that's the passion that you have that's so infectious. But from a writer's perspective, well, I'm always concerned. Should we be concerned with historical authenticity rather than okay, this is George wrote the book and let's put our own spin on it? Is it really that much of a groundbreaking show for television?
I think it is. It's not the best written show, but it is because A, it's so over the top. It confronts us with things that we don't want to be confronted with. Like we're talking about the violence in Game of Thrones, but right now the U.S. is waging war on ISIS.
Hmm.
So you know this war we can't see it. It's not on our television. So it's okay. It's violence somewhere else. Somebody else is getting killed. But the violence in Game of Thrones, we're seeing it because it's this popular show, so everybody's seeing it, so I have to see it. But then if I have to see it to be cool and I don't want to see this violence, there's a kind of problem with their relationship with violence, you know?
Okay. Are you against violence
And
on television?
no, I'm not against violence. I'm not against anything actually. But I think that whenever somebody has a, a visceral reaction to something, there's something behind that reaction. And the visceral reaction to sex and violence, me that we're not violence. So
Okay.
I don't think that Game of Thrones is this the greatest show ever made. But for where we're at right now, which I think we're trying to get somewhere where we're past all these old things, sex, violence, sexism, racism. We're trying to get past them, and we have people working on both ends. People working for us to be progressive, and people working for us to stay where we're at. Game of Thrones is perfect because when it shows the world the way it used to be, it kind of confronts us with these things that we need to talk about.
Are we
and I think that's gonna be legacy.
are we drawn to probably something that we want to see? Is our visceral reaction to it somehow probably close to kind of could be something that okay, we talk a lot about it, but we enjoy it. Would you say it's something that we
Well,
actually
yeah,
want to see? It's something we're drawn to?
that's part of it. Yeah, because that's part of it because art at a certain level is catharsis, right? And maybe sometimes people will just accept the catharsis and not go any further. Like, let's say that you want to be a violent person and you look at the violence in Game of Thrones and it satisfies you, but you never addressed the fact that you want to exact this violence. You just use the Game of Thrones as sublimation. Like if you were to use Freudian terms as sublimation, but maybe you should address that need for violence. Where does it come from? Can it be constructive? Can I use it for other things? You know. But that's a broader conversation.
Definitely. But just on a really really personal scale, what's your favorite show? Like seriously, what is the best show out there that like you should be watching this? Or is it
Best
just
show out there
right now?
right
You
now.
have to pick up the remote like okay, tune in now because you must see this.
Hmm.
Doesn't have
I
to be
don't know.
one. I
Deep.
don't want to paint you into a corner, but if you know, if you, because I'm always interested in your in your taste, Haley, because you have very, very, very different tastes than I do, and it's always nice because you and I, we have this rapport where even though we disagree, but it's fun to disagree because I love your perspective on everything. But really, it's just like, if what is the show that keeps you up at night? It's like I can't believe they did that.
Um. Nowadays, I don't think there are that many shows that keep me up at night. I'm not. I'm actually cutting back, not because I want to cut back, but because I'm somewhat bored with what's out there. If you were to ask me all time, that would be The Wire. The Wire is it's the greatest show ever made.
A lot of people keep telling that, and I feel so guilty for not having jumped on the bandwagon because my sister is still dogging me. It's like, you should be watching more. You've told me that. Benji's told me that, and I still have not had the time to actually sit. And I know this is the dawn of the internet. It could just be available anywhere, but probably should. But what makes it so compelling?
Because it doesn't just entertain, it talks about the things. We're not Americans, but some of the things that it talks about are global issues. Corruption, like racism, like drugs, like capitalism. And for me, movies, television, art in general cannot be just entertainment.
Okay.
Because my reaction to it is your time here is finite. And a distraction takes away that time that you could use to do something meaningful. And some people's argument would be that yeah, you have to do something meaningful, but you have to be off sometimes. I don't think you have to be off, and that's what The Wire does. It doesn't make you be off, like turn your brain off. It entertains you while entertaining specific conversations about society.
Okay.
And you don't feel like you necessarily need to be off while you're watching The Wire. And then afterwards, you can go and talk about it about to other people and see what they think about the social aspects of The Wire. That's why The Wire and Treme are two of the greatest shows ever made.
Okay.
And if you look at Treme, it's totally different from The Wire, but it does the same thing. It confronts things that you don't want to know about.
But in the
which
beginning, isn't entertainment the fact of walking into the theater or sitting down for the 45-minute or an hour show I'm going to watch? Isn't it? So are you against the fact that maybe somewhat I want to disconnect and disappear into this little world created for me by the writers and this little moment of just disconnection and like you said, entertainment? Is it wrong to actually just want to take a pause and just like shut off your brain for a second?
to me it is, because to shut your brain and not do anything is aching to me with dying.
Okay.
Like if you don't want to do anything, you're kind of asking to be dead. The definition of a human being is that we are thinking creatures. So to me, there's no reason we would want to actually stop thinking, stop doing. If you want to stop thinking and stop doing, it probably means that you're overwhelmed, which means that your life isn't integrated. You have something that you're doing which takes a part of your time, which maybe you don't like, or maybe is too draining, and you want to recuperate from that. And the thing that takes all of your time is work, which is capitalist work,
Okay.
which would lead us to a broader conversation about capitalism. If capitalism, it's logical that you have to have entertainment, because the people that work and don't like their work, you're gonna have to give them a place where they can go and forget about work, and
Mhm.
then come back tomorrow and come back on Monday and be productive.
The cycle. The
But
cycle.
it doesn't help. It doesn't help this person. It doesn't help society grow. It helps companies grow. It helps GDP grow.
Amen to that.
It's not a thing.
I hear you. You're also for aside you're passionate about film, and from the conversations we've had, I know that you're a bit disillusioned with Hollywood. I saw my because again I like to see the fact that I like to explore. I'm curious about everything. See, I like foreign films. I like documentaries. I like cinema. Like I like Malaysian cinema. Like the Thai are doing great films. I enjoyed the Raid too. It's very artsy. Is I really enjoyed the Raid 2. I have no idea. I had no idea. First of all, for Raid 1 was really good in terms of just sheer, not just violence, but as an action movie, I really felt like back into my kid zone when I was watching Die Hard or back into the day where, okay, it was not just, it was a very well crafted action film. Now for the Raid 2, it was even more so. It was crazy. It was for people who haven't seen it, you should definitely watch it. That is filmmaking for an action film. That is really good filmmaking. Um, but for you, what are the markets that people should be watching out for? Okay, if we're just like setting Hollywood aside, because there is another world out there other than Hollywood. What are you paying attention to? Is it the Korean films? Is it the French films? What are you paying attention to? Because I know you're a big fan of the oh man, I'm sorry, Fantasia Film Fest. What makes it so compelling? Because it's for a very particular niche audience. Now I'm seeing. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm seeing Fantasia basically having the same like Sundance treatment. It used to be very obscure. Now it's just taking on a whole nother life of its own. Is it just me, or is that really happening? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You said it perfectly. The reason I specifically adhere to the Fantasia Festival is that, like I said before, I'm more into genre films. Like I said, fantasy and science fiction, but it could be other genres like action. I love action films, and I think that in an action film you can say a lot if you want to, but most people don't want to. And I think that Fantasia before, maybe now it's kind of delving into too much, but before it was great for that. That you could see people or see movies that were never going to be released anywhere,
So was it the
but were
only place
great
to get it?
films. Yeah, it was the only place to go and see it, and then you could talk about it for years, and then people would be like, "Where can I see it?" And you would be like, "But distribute it. So maybe contact the director or something. But it it made you feel one special that you were part of this experience, which it was timely. If you weren't there, you couldn't get it, and it made you explore people that were really trying to get out there to bring their ideas out into the world, but the world wasn't listening because most people are listening to Hollywood. Most people are listening to the machine. So that's the reason I totally adhere to Concordia or to Fantasia. When I go to Fantasia, most of the movies that I review on my blog are from Fantasia, unless it's something that I review from a specific country, which was the other part of your question. Like if you look at the countries right now that I'm interested in, like it's moving all around the world, except the U.S. The U.S. is probably in the worst shape like it's ever been for movies. It's made money because people want to see spectacles, but in terms of creativity, it's really down. Um, but I'm really interested in Hong Kong. Like if you were part of the 90s and you were interested in Hong Kong cinema, that was the golden era of Hong Kong cinema for me. And you had a lot more films coming out of Hong Kong. Now they have less financing because of mainland China. A
Okay.
lot of movies are getting made there, so they're not getting made in Hong Kong. And when they're getting made in mainland China, they're part of the government. I don't want to say propaganda, but that's what it is. So the filmmakers in Hong Kong are having great difficulty making their films or making more of their films. But they still have, I think, at least 50 films a year, 50 big films a year.
50 films a year.
Yeah. So you have people like Johnny To. Like if you've never seen a Johnny To film, wait till we finish and then go out and go
Get a
get a
Johnny To
Johnny
film.
To like elect. Yeah. Or if you've never had his movie last year, Drug War was the best movie I saw last year. And if you want to see what an action movie should be like, go see Drug War. It's on Netflix. Go see it when we're done.
See, again,
I
that
know
reflects his passion.
yeah,
There you
I know
go.
I talk badly about China, but Chinese films are really interesting if you understand the mindset. We're in a government-controlled country, and all the production is looked at by the government. So it'll be more folk tales or heroes dying against an external enemy, usually the Japanese. 'Cause uh, Japan
Oh,
is really interesting because of its indie film culture. You have big films coming out from Japan, but I rarely see the big films. I really see the small films, especially comedies. The comedies are very idiosyncratic and very interesting. And then you have Korea. Uh, the good thing about Korea is how they mix high culture and low culture. You'll have a very serious film about, I don't know, dying or cancer, but someone will fart. And it's you'll never see that in a Hollywood film because they'll just divide it. It'll be two films. You'll have Dumb and Dumber, and then you'll have the Meryl Streep movie, right?
why?
August Country or something.
Why in the world did they make a Dumb and Dumber sequel or a reboot or whatever you want to call it, Ailey? Because I'm really asking myself. First of all, just going very technical here for a creative standpoint, just like consider me the layman. In layman's terms, what is the point of a sequel? First of all, and again, is Hollywood so not willing to take chances that they're willing to reboot a 20-year-old movie? This is Dumb and Dumber here. Seriously, why?
The reason why is the people making these decisions are marketers. They're not creatives. They're not filmmakers. They're not even producers. They greenlight films if you can tell them how many people are going to be interested in that film. And the only way you can do that is if a film has already been, or the best way, not the only way, but the best way you could do that is if a film has already been distributed. So from a marketer's standpoint, if you tell me that Dumb and Dumber, the first one, grossed, I don't know, $200 million, I know that that's my base. Like if I get everybody that saw the first one, I get $200 million. So if I greenlight it for $100 million, I might make $100 million.
Okay.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
But in that frame of mind, you don't get Junos, right? You don't make a movie for $7 million and make $100 million, which percentage-wise is better, but for them, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit into their marketing frame mind.
Because it's all about the cash register now?
Hollywood. It's the marketing.
It's the marketing. Is this what's going on? Is this what's going on in North America now? The fact that are the creatives just a dying breed, or is everybody just willing? Okay, you know, since I know they'll never greenlight this movie, let me, like you said, let me make a movie about boobs and farting. That's why movies like, you know, Piranha 2DD is gonna be greenlighted. How do movies like this get made? It's insane.
Yeah, I think it's different for Piranha. Piranha maybe not, because Piranha is a remake of Roger Corman, of the Roger Corman films. But I think, like, if you look at Sharknado, for example, which I think what you're trying to get at, like how the Sharknado 1 and 2 get made, it's really simple. The Sharknado says, I'm not gonna go through the system. I have this idea of a movie people can watch, like a total entertainment. It doesn't talk about anything, right? It doesn't talk about how we're killing all the sharks. It just has sharks, right? It doesn't talk about them just disappearing. It just has sharks in it.
Just has
from
sharks.
The sky, falling and killing people. So how do you get that greenlit? It's easy. You have this concept that's so far out, and you have this really, really, really small budget. If you've seen Sharknado, which I think you have not.
No, I haven't. I cannot bring myself to that. I'm sorry.
Very lucky, my friend. If you've seen Sharknado, you see that they have no budget, but they don't care. That's what the concept is. We'll get Ian Ziering from 90210 to be our star. I mean, how much do you have to pay Ian Ziering? $500 and a beer? It's Ian Ziering. I mean, he's not doing anything. Like right now, he wants more money for Sharknado 3. If I was the producer, I'd tell him, dude, you're Ian Ziering. You want more money? I'll give you $501 if you want. But
wow.
That's the thing. You just keep the budget really small, and you go to someone which that budget for them is nothing. Like they'll just write you a check on the spot, and you get the stars to agree. And mostly it's wash up stars. It's Vivica Fox, which we haven't seen since I don't know. We haven't seen in a real movie since Kill Bill.
Since Kill Bill.
Maybe she's been in black films, but we haven't seen her in a big film since Kill Bill. You have her. You have Ian Ziering. You have the girl from American Pie. I forget her name. And they all have surgery and look awful.
Wow.
What else are they gonna do? What else are they gonna do? They have no choice. It's not like they have these people knocking at their door, you know.
Wow. That is insane.
That's how you get Sharknado made.
That's how you had Sharknado
What's your own Sharknado, like a turtle tsunami? Like, you could totally do that. I'm sure you'll find a television station somewhere that wants to pay you for
Turtle Tsunami.
turtle tsunami or turtle tsunami.
You should definitely market that. Wow,
And
that's a
now
good
it's
one.
out in the world.
It's
There's
out in the
somebody
world. But somebody
there.
got it. Somebody got it. Too late. Too late. Too late. I want to throw a technical question in there, just like that. Just from a creative standpoint, because I've seen you work and I've seen you guys at work, and I totally admire the entire dynamic of a movie set, and I think that there's no greater um, recipe for explosion of creative minds than a movie set. How do you as a director, because you've been a screenwriter, you've been a DP, you've done everything, you've been in all the chairs. How does it work? How does it gel on a movie set so things don't go haywire? It's like how what's the synthesis for all of that to work? Because again, it's it's not a one man show.
No, it's not a one man show. It's a team effort. Uh, it's it's as hard to do as I would guess when you're inside a company and you want to make the team gel, work well together. For me, my experience has been if it's me directing, I have to step up. I have to I have to be the metronome. I have to give everybody something to do, and it has to be clear. And that's how I get things rolling. If it's not me directing, then it's being totally supportive. And when I'm totally supportive, sometimes I feel like I'm passive, but I think it's the best way to be when you're supportive. If someone asks you what do you think of something, totally give your opinion. Or if you see something bad going on set, you totally say, I think that's gonna be a problem. But if not, you have to let the person that's directing, the person that's leading, you have to let them lead and you have to follow.
Okay.
It's a lot about, the concept of yin and yang. Sometimes you're yang and you're aggressive and you're doing that and it all depends on you and you're going for it. But sometimes you have to be yin, you have to be more casual, more passive, more in tune. You're just there to create a common project, yeah, for a common goal, and you should not be trying to
Butt heads.
competition with the director.
Hmm.
And a lot of people do that. They start to question challenge the director. You should never like challenge the director. You should tell him this is what I think, and he should tell you, I don't see it that way, and you should be like, okay,
Okay. This is what you want. This is
it's
not what you want.
model. And if you do that, usually everything on set goes well. I don't know if it translates into a good project,
Hmm.
but on the set, you have a lot of fun.
That's good. Because fun is the point, because you're going to be there for a while. What's your relationship with your actors? Because just going back to one of my favorite directors, Alfred Hitchcock, who was basically he was very methodical. Everything I've read up on him in all of his movies, you always know that he knows exactly what he wants. I want it here. This pen has to be at this angle. This light has to be here, and this actor has to say this very specific line. What is your personal relationship with the actor? To you, is it a tool? Do you tell them exactly what you want? Like you said, do you want exactly what you want, or do your actors get a certain amount of say into, well, like I think you should do this, or I don't think the character should do that? Well, what's your relationship? Is it similar to Hitchcock, or would you say it varies?
It's similar to Hitchcock insofar that when I'm talking to an actor and we're setting up what we're going to do, I have my own ideas of what we're going to do, and I'm the director.
Okay.
So, and I had this conversation with Coralie. Hi, Coralie, if you're listening in. I had this conversation
Oh, that was epic.
To Coralie about actors being tools for the director, and she didn't agree because she's an actress. Uh, but I think that Hitchcock's way of seeing the actor was probably the best way. For sure, you have to stay human. They're human beings, and without you having human contact or human connection with them, there can't be a team atmosphere. You can't be collaborative. And film is a collaborative process.
Okay.
But at times you get to a point where someone has to take a decision and you're not in the collaborative aspect anymore. You're into you're going to do it this way.
Okay.
So both exist at the same time. You have to be collaborative. But the actor says something and you say something and somebody has to be like, we're going to do this. So when you're at the collaborative part, you're totally human. You're totally into how this person and you are gelling and communicating and you know. And when you're at the point where you have to take a decision, you're totally in. You're a tool for my film mode.
It's the execution.
Yeah.
The execution is you to make it happen.
Exactly. You're in yang mode. You're in aggressive mode because this thing's got to get done. And I totally love you as a person, but go
make my move.
Get your lines straight and come back when you're done.
When you know your lines.
Because we have lights for 2 hours, so I get this done right now. So when Hitchcock is saying stuff like, you know, an actor comes up to me and says, what's my motivation? And he says, your paycheck. That's what he means. He means like, dude, I don't have time. I have to check the lighting. I have to check art direction. I have to check staging. I have to check the camera. Right now, do whatever we talked about 3 weeks ago.
Just please.
Don't come and see me. Right? We had a time to be collaborative. Right now,
But I had this idea. I think you're gonna like it. I had this idea.
Yeah. I had this idea. What's your idea? In 30 seconds, what's your idea?
Well, I don't think she would say that.
You're not being collaborative because there are external factors that are stopping the collaborative process. But you should always strive to do both at the same time. Even if time is scarce, even if you have all these people talking to you, you can always be open to collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to like balance it out. You have to balance the yin and the yang. Collaboration and no, go sit down and go learn your lines.
Go learn your lines. You mentioned
sometimes you have to be the asshole. That's what life is. Sometimes you have to be the asshole, and then afterwards I'll buy you some Skittles. But at that point,
well, you know, I'll just lick the rules. It's okay. We'll go have a beer afterwards. But right now, shut up.
Exactly.
You know, we always talk about this because I'm looking at my background, I'm seeing the comic books, and we've had this conversation before about I can't call it a resurgence, but the fact that, of course, it's pretty obvious since the dawn of Iron Man. I'm not going to say Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man franchise, because I personally had no appreciation for it, but that's just me. But comic book movies. You're a very, very astute comic fan, so again, being a film buff, you have a very unique perspective on what is going on right now with so many comic book movies coming down the pipeline. First of all, two folds. God, I'm good at these. Are you happy with what we've done so far? What Marvel has pushed out, and what is DC doing wrong? Because I'm thinking, if I understand this correctly, Marvel doesn't own much of their properties anymore. Like, they don't own Spider-Man, Sony does. But DC owns 100% of their properties, but they're not nearly making as many movies or as much money as they could be. Or am I wrong about this?
Yeah, the problem with DC is that it's not really a problem. What happened with Marvel is that they have one creative who's also head of the studio,
Okay.
Kevin Feige. He has all the ideas for where the Marvel Cinematic Universe is going. So you have one head. It's like Stan Lee when in the beginnings of Marvel, who had this idea for all the superheroes being interconnected and having personal lives. Their Marvel's advantage is Kevin Feige. If he ever leaves Marvel, they're at a disadvantage compared to DC. But for now, he really loves it there. He already has ideas for Captain America 3, which we've seen, I think, this week that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be in Captain America 3. So we kind of know that it's going to be like a civil war between Iron Man and Captain America in Captain America 3, which will set up Avengers 3.
Okay.
So you already see that he's already thinking about after 2020, and we're on not even 2015.
Wow.
That's how you create worth, how you create value for a company. You create an advantage that nobody else has, and you do it in a way that nobody else can do it.
Wow.
DC may try to do it. I'm not sure it's going to work. It's not only DC trying to do it now. Like if you've seen the movies, the 10 movies that DC says are coming out between now and 2020, you have everything coming out. You have Justice League, you have Justice League 2, you have Wonder Woman, you have a new Green Lantern.
Yeah.
You have Shazam, you have The Flash, you have a bunch of these films that are coming out in a short amount of time, 5 years. What I think is going to happen is really quickly, I feel people are gonna be tired of
comic book movies.
Movies, because when it comes out once or twice a year, it's special. When you have 3 coming out from the same studio and you have 5 or 6 studios, so you have 10 comic book films a year, some of them are going to get tossed, and the more you have them, the more people are going to be like, not another superhero comic film. I'm going to go see Meryl Streep. You know? So I think around 2018, when I think The Flash is coming out, people are going to start getting tired of comic book films.
So far, a good 3.5 years until we reach the tipping point?
Totally, because I think people loved Avengers, and I think they're going to be satisfied with Avengers 2, which is Ultron-based. But not only Ultron, you have Vision, you have a bunch of people.
I'm excited. I'm excited about that one. I mean, really excited.
Yeah. I think people are excited about how the Avengers is going and how the Marvel slate is going. Me, I'm half and half. So I don't see it happening in the next 2 years.
Okay.
But around 2018, when you have the Marvel films and the DC films and the Universal films, because Universal is doing the same thing, they're trying to integrate all their monster movies together. So you have Universal monster movies for $100 to $200 million. You have Warner Brothers films from $100 to $200 million. You have the Marvel films. You have the Sony films, the Spider-Man universe, the Sinister Six films, right? You have the Sinister Six, Black Cat, etc. What they're trying to do.
Wow.
They're saying that they're closing down the X-Men films, but you have a Deadpool film coming out. You have a new Wolverine coming out.
Another Wolverine?
Yeah, you have another Wolverine coming out. Although I still haven't seen the second one.
Wow.
And I don't know a lot of people who did. So.
No, I didn't see it either.
Yeah. I'm pretty well gonna get tired at one point. And I predict 2018. I may be wrong, maybe like 2017 or 2022, but I'm gonna stick with 2018.
2018. We'll definitely see how that goes. Definitely see how that goes. You know, I've got a soft spot for Batman. What are your hopes for Batfleck?
Yeah, I don't know if they should do a Batflick so close to the Nolans. I personally didn't like the Nolan Batman films, but since everybody
See what
was
I mean?
raving about them,
Controversial.
to do another Batman
Controversial.
film right now,
Why? What was wrong with Nolan? What was wrong with the Nolan Batman, man?
what is
Dude.
not wrong? What is? I don't know. I could we could have a 2 hour conversation about Nolan films in general
Okay,
and
the
Batman
autopilot
films in particular.
just so happened that the autopilot was fixed. Okay, it just so happened. Okay, I get it, but come on, like dive into, I don't know, the universe. Just like set your brain aside for 5 seconds.
No, if I was to synthesize why I don't like Nolan films and Batman's films in particular, it would be that Nolan tries to bring things that are um, creative and more maybe spiritual, maybe unreal into the real world. And I can't adhere to that. Like me, I don't like the real world. When I go see my movies, as I said, it has to be science fiction. It doesn't have to be, but I prefer science fiction and fantasy and horror and all these things that are unrealistic. So to see someone take something that's unrealistic, which could very well make a really good fantasy and comic book film, but with very current themes and broad undertones and talk about something, he just brings it back to the real world. I mean, dreams could be anything, but I'm gonna bring it to the real world. Magic could be anything. It could do everything, but I'm gonna bring it back to the
The
real
real
world.
world.
I mean, like, why would you do that? Like, to me, it's ridiculous. It's senseless. I mean, you have something against unreal things, and now he's doing science fiction. Like, I
You're
don't know
not
if I'm
excited
gonna.
about Interstellar? You don't want to see Interstellar?
Not really, no. I guess because I don't want to say that he sucks, so I'm just gonna say that I don't like
Did you like
his
Memento?
style,
You
I
didn't like
guess.
Memento?
That's the only movie I liked. And Memento is his second film. I mean, after Memento, it's all downhill from there.
We're gonna get so much hate, man.
Yeah. Sure. Send me a hate email. Don't forget at Kino Real on Twitter, and
There you go.
yeah, send me something on Twitter.
That's insane. That's insane. But definitely, dude, we see a lot of comic movies coming down the pipeline. It's insane. I'm not sure if this is right now the current safe formula that Hollywood is adapting. It's like, okay, let's ensure we have a solid paycheck. Because hey, people like the Avengers. Let's make another Avengers. People like Iron Man. Let's make, as long as Robert Downey Jr. is in it, we're good. But I just keep thinking, like, where did the creativity go? Like, what do I, as an aspiring screenwriter, can bring to the table if I don't want to make a comic book movie? If I want, do people still make original movies anymore? Is that even logical? Because everything is either an adapted work, a reboot, a remake, or a comic book film, or a Hannah Montana concert.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to what I was talking about the marketing, right? Like, why do you do a Hannah Montana film? Is because she has a following, and you know how many Twitter followers she has, and you can monetize that. Maybe see how many people are gonna go see the film, and if you're gonna make $50 million while you spend $10 million, for sure.
For sure.
But sometimes it's taking a chance that gets you the real money. I mean, I said Juno before, but Jaws is a great example of a movie nobody thought would work, but worked. It's Star Wars. And when you don't take chances and you keep doing things that have already been done, I mean, Star Wars at the time was a chance, but Star Wars now is not a chance.
No,
Star Trek now is not a chance,
it's not a chance.
And what's gonna happen is people are gonna get bored, and they're gonna go do things that they feel are gonna give them more value. And if that's video games, it's gonna be video games.
It's gonna be video
If that's
games.
comic books, which I don't think it's gonna be comic books unless we get more relevant creators. We have great creators in comic books, but nobody reads them. It's indie comic books. Uh, it's not. They're gonna get bored. They're gonna go do something that they feel is gonna give them more value. And right now, that's television. So Hollywood is at a crossroads. I was talking to somebody about that the other day, actually, and to me, Hollywood kind of took people away from reading, right?
Okay.
There was a heyday of not comic movies. There was a heyday of movies, maybe around the '60s, where you had these great films. The system is collapsing. You have new stars emerging. You have indie films like Easy Rider coming out, and the '60s lead to the '70s. You have action films. You have very violent films. People are excited about movies, right? You get to the end of the '70s. You have Star Wars. You have the Godfather. You have Superman. People are excited about where movies are going, and they start leaving other things. They start leaving books. They start leaving television, because television is boring. It's formulaic, right? They're not doing anything in television.
Wow.
But now it's the opposite. You look at Hollywood. Hollywood is formulaic, while television and the web is where the innovation's at. Like if you want to look at something that's gonna blow your mind, you don't go to see a movie anymore.
You don't go to see a movie.
That's sad. You go see a movie if you had relevant creators. If you looked for diversity. I mean, one of Hollywood's problem is that it decided that it's all about tentpoles. It's all about 100 million to 200 million movies. While in the '70s and '80s, they start to create diversity. They have a different slate of films, and wherever you're at in your life, you can choose a film which is
That responds to you.
better suited for you. Now you can't do that. Well, you can have like one movie a year which interests you,
Mm-hmm.
but most of the Hollywood slate is, Harry Potter. Harry Potter. I thought we were done. No, we have 3 others coming out.
Yeah.
Right?
I couldn't believe that, but yeah, it was true. If I'm like, okay, what more can they do? It turns out they can do a lot, actually, if you have enough motivation.
You can do a new trilogy, right? And Lord of the Rings was so awesome. If Hobbit couldn't be as awesome, don't do it.
Don't do it. And I have to say, I've been disappointed at this point. As I don't know, first of all, why they made 3. It just makes absolutely no sense. No, we know the paycheck, obviously, but as a movie itself, like what? It's not. You didn't need to make 3 movies. It was not necessary, and you're getting lost in translation, and they're super long for no reason. The CGI is not even that good. It's certainly coming from Weta Digital. I expected more, and this is just coming from regular Joe Schmo me. I'm looking at this like this is bad. Like this is really bad. This is bad. But
I think they were trying to get the lightning in the bottle twice, and that's really hard to do.
that is.
And they should not try to get the lightning in the bottle.
Leave it alone. Leave it alone. Do another Star Wars. Like re-release the DVD box sets 50 times. Like do
And
like Star Wars.
something else, like get new ideas. Like if people don't understand that this creating stuff comes from 2 things. It comes from talent and diversity.
You have to have that balance.
You have to have that balance. But the more talent you have, the more creativity you have. But also the more talent and diversity you have, the more creativity you have. So you should work on having more talent, not less talent, not less movies, more movies. So you could have that lighting in a bottle, and you should have this amount of movies from $500,000 for the budget to $100 million, $200 million for the budget. If you have that, sometimes a genius will create a movie for $500,000 and you will make so much money you won't know what to do with it. It's 500,000. You know, like in the present environment, could a movie like Speed ever exist? Like I love Speed.
I love Speed.
In the moment it was created, 1994, I think the budget was $35 million.
Wow.
How people don't make movies within the 30 to 50 million? They rarely make movies. And I think usually those are the movies that interest me. Like right now, the movie I'm more interested in seeing, of course, I want to see Gone Girl. Of course, I want to see Birdman. But everybody, usually when people are talking about a movie for awards, that doesn't interest me. And the movie I want to see now, and I'm going to get hate mail again, is John Wick.
I want to see John Wick. I want to see John Wick.
I mean, they killed his dog. How weird as a premise can you get?
They killed his dog.
His girlfriend. They didn't kill his mama.
They killed his dog.
His daddy. They killed his dog. They shouldn't have, but they killed him, and now he's gonna get revenge.
And we have our movie. You killed my dog. You killed my dog. Hey, why are you going on this visceral rampage? Because they killed my dog. I swear.
What did we do? You killed my dog. I'll get you another one. You can't replace them.
You can't replace one. I got it from my wife who was dying. Now it's the last memory I have, but now you killed my dog. Now die.
And Keanu Reeves, man. Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves of all people. Of all people.
Yeah.
He doesn't get enough credit, I swear. But he's like, he just shows up. He just pops up. He's like a mushroom. He's just there.
And he makes those such interesting films. I mean, as a persona, I don't know if nobody has ever written about Keanu's persona on films, but as Keanu makes films, like even if you look at his romantic films, he's a very very internal character in all of his films, especially his romantic film. He seems inaccessible, and I think that's why people are saying that he's a bad actor. But he's not a bad actor.
He's not a bad actor.
He's a very good actor, and his persona is consistent, whether it is an action film or a romantic film. And I think that's why I feel so drawn to him in his film. He's a badass. When he does an action film, you're gonna know that he's not gonna cry about it. You killed my dog.
You killed my dog. And that's the thing. I saw the trailer. I'm like, they brought back Keanu Reeves, one, and second, I heard they killed my dog. Because you're expecting, because you get that trailer where he's like, okay, you know the wife is gonna die. It's gonna be that spark, but you're like, the dog. Okay, the dog. Are you serious? Like, really, the dog right now? Like, okay, I'm on board. I want to see that.
And there's this part in the trailer when he's playing with the dog. You're like, oh, that's gonna be trouble.
That's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt.
That's gonna be trouble. He really loves the dog.
He really loves the dog. Not the car, the dog.
The dog. Yeah, it's like the scene in the Last Action Hero when they say in the fake trailer they killed his cousin. Big mistake. Big mistake. Right? That's how revenge movies work. You killed something or you destroyed something, and I come in.
That's the spark. That's the element that gets the ball rolling. But I wanted to throw you because we wanted to talk about this. Because you sent me the link to the recent Adam Sandler deal, Happy Madison Studios with Netflix. So now we're actually seeing like big budget motion pictures made exclusively for distribution on Netflix. Forget shows, forget Orange is the New Black, forget House of Cards. Now we're really seeing movies with legitimate, high-profile A-list actors like Adam Sandler. We're just talking, again, I'm not talking award-winning, but grossing. Adam Sandler is still grossing. Forget Jack and Jill. I don't know how much Jack and Jill made, but still, he made money off it. If you're making money, props to you. But still, what is happening right now is this another like nail in Hollywood's coffin where okay, are we going to see I don't know, Tarantino releasing a movie on Netflix?
I hope so. It's only a nail in their coffin if they're too slow to adapt, and that's what's happening right now. They don't want to adapt. They're making money off the present business model, and they will fight the new business model tooth and nail until they become irrelevant. And Netflix is the new Hollywood. If they had adopted this new, like when Netflix started, Netflix wanted to show Hollywood films, and Hollywood refused because they still wanted to package the movies. If they wanted you to pay the movies per movie, $13 per movie when you buy a DVD, $25 per movie when you buy the Blu-ray. They wanted you to do that because they make more money. But if they had adopted the subscription model and they had licensed the movies to Netflix, they would be part of all this money coming in, which they didn't do.
For
So
having those
Netflix
in
was
your
like,
catalog.
okay, fine. Yeah, Netflix was like, I'm going to make my own television and films. I'm gonna buy whatever's available, which turned out to be pretty interesting,
A
like
lot.
Breaking Bad and Mad Men, like that. I'm gonna buy indie films, right? And the indie films is where the innovation's at. Like if you look, not everybody looks through the movies available on Netflix, but you have a lot of indie films, really interesting films available because the director or the producer can just go to Netflix and sign a licensing deal. And you have, of course, the new productions, the new Netflix productions. Netflix has shown that if you want to work with us, we're ready to work with you.
Or where they work
But
with
if
you.
you don't want to work with us, we'll find a way. And Hollywood's problem was that they didn't want to work with Netflix. And now I think it's too late. Netflix will just eat them up because they're too big. They're 50 million pairs of eyes around the world.
They're an empire right now.
Yeah,
They are a
they're getting
significant force in the entertainment industry, and for content consumption, nobody's talking about okay, let's go because and this is near and dear to my heart because you know me, I love repertory films. I love the entire aspect of going out to my local specialized repertory shop, DVD de la Gare, La Boîte Noire, and the stop shops where you have to go in there and actually crate dig for that obscure movie that you wanted to see, that's gone. That's gone now. Now Netflix has basically become the go-to place. Netflix is your rental shop. Forget Blockbuster. Blockbuster was going to happen anyway. They refused to adapt. They refused to adapt. They were way too late, and by the time they realized that, they were dead already. But Netflix has basically showed you that, listen, you can actually go about this a different way. And you know, Hollywood, they don't want to work with us. It's fine. You can actually just pay $8 a month, $7 a month when you start out. You can pay $7 a month, and you get all these movies. All these movies. It's like, well, I'm just looking for that movie that I wanted to see. And I've noticed this. Like right now, the big releases, like take for example, 12 Years a Slave, a movie like that in the beginning of Netflix, which would taken months to be in the catalog, but now it was practically around the same time the DVD was released. It's
yeah,
practically around the same time.
yeah,
And that's what's happening. And right now people are taking notice. But when I
because
read that article, it really floored me. It's like, okay, if Adam Sandler is taking the helm and pushing for, because that's 4 movies, that's a 4-movie deal. So that's what, okay, strictly for Netflix. Like, okay, now who else is going to be there? Like Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise, who knows?
hmm? No, he already had backlash from it. I don't know if you've seen the Hollywood Reporter article where he usually makes movies with Sony, and Sony just canceled his next film
Wow.
because of the deal he signed with Netflix. So they're trying, but it's not gonna work. Like Netflix is too big. They're trying to make it like it's a competition between them and Netflix. but it's not really a competition. At the beginning, Netflix was a distributor. He wasn't creating content.
Yeah, they were
He
just a hub.
only started creating content because it needed content. The company needed content, uh, and it's their fault. They didn't deliver content. So now it's creating content and distributing content. It doesn't really need Hollywood anymore.
Wow. Talk about
You
karma.
know? Yeah.
Talk about karma.
And it's okay if a Sony says they're not gonna distribute or they're not gonna make Adam Sandler's next film because Adam Sandler, now that he's with Netflix, I mean the four movie deal, if it works out, could be more than four movies. He could be totally distributed through Netflix. He could be half distributed to Netflix. He could make movies for Netflix and then distribute them on DVD.
Mm-hmm.
Direct DVD.
Makes sense. It's either or.
Yeah, depends on the deal he has with Netflix.
That's insane. It's just so organic. Again, we're at an age where you're seeing this social change in the way people go about consuming this content that's readily available, because the internet has opened so many doors. And when they told you like the internet is a beautiful thing, gives you access to content you otherwise would never have access to, and gives you possibilities that as a creative you would never ever even imagine. It's inspiring. It's inspiring. Yay, Netflix, go at 'em. And Hollywood, watch out. Find something to do. Find a way. But like you said, it's a lot of ego, and it's, again, if it's worked so far, why would we change? Why take chances? And that's troublesome. That's really worrisome. Wow.
Yeah, it's a short-term view, and that's usually the problem with Wall Street in general. And when Wall Street bought Hollywood, it became Hollywood's problem. Short-term view. Like if you look at Hollywood in the old days, in the heydays, they would build careers, right? They would be a facilitator for filmmakers and actors. You look at how Spielberg started his career. He started at Universal, and Universal, he says, really helped him, put him into a frame where he could be creative and come up with E.T., come up with all of the things he came up with. And it's sad that somebody like Spielberg is telling you now that he can't work in Hollywood. Like in the present Hollywood, every time he makes film, he has to sell it to a marketer. And the marketer will be like, "Why don't you do a remake?" He's saying Lincoln almost wasn't made or made on TV, but like for HBO, because he couldn't find the money for Lincoln. Everybody would be like, "Why don't you make a science fiction remake or something?"
Wow.
Which is sad. It's Spielberg.
That's sad. It is sad. If you're Spielberg and you still have to go out there and hustle, and you can't convince a marketer that, but I'm Spielberg. But I'm Spielberg.
And Spielberg is so Spielberg that he's never gonna say, "But I'm Spielberg." But at the same time, it's Spielberg. I mean, even if he did bad films from now until he dies, just remember the old films. Just give him the money.
It's Spielberg. I liked Warhorse.
Yeah, I never saw Warhorse, but he has I think Spielberg has two phases. He has this I'm a eternal kid phase, and he has this I'm trying to come to terms with being an adult phase.
Okay.
And I'm trying to come to terms with being an adult phase. When I see the films initially, I don't like them. But when I see them again and again, I'm like, oh, he's trying to come to terms with being an adult. And it's really interesting from that point of view. Like, you look at AI, and AI, if it was done by Kubrick, would be a totally different film, but to see it through the eyes of Spielberg, and it has that childish wonder, that you associate with Spielberg, although he rarely does that anymore.
Hmm.
It has that childish wonder, but it has a dark streak.
It does.
You don't understand what the dark streak is called. Like you could look at War of the World, and it's very bleak. The color, the thin color, the how the world just seems to be ending, right?
Wow.
It just feels like Spielberg is going through something, and in his films, and to not let him explore that, to not let us see where that goes, is wrong. You're
It
bad,
is.
Hollywood.
It
Bad.
just it just really so it puts things in perspective to where the machine is going and how the machine runs and how it's thinking, which is many reasons why I don't watch the Oscars anymore because I personally don't care. Not just because I don't have time to watch all the movies that are nominated, but at the same time, Hollywood like the Oscars are no longer a reference for me because it's I don't know it's more of like you said a marketing standpoint. There's that word again. It's more a
Mhm.
marketing standpoint. Is okay, which is a more compelling story that's going to make us most money rather okay is this really the best film the most epic cinematography experience and achievement that has come out in these past 12 months.
Yeah.
I have a problem with that. I have a
And it's a
problem with that.
popularity contest.
It is who sells, who doesn't, and how
Mhm.
can we market this, how can we market this. I'm sure 12 Years a Slave is a great film. I haven't seen it yet, but to this day I love Dallas Buyers Club. I really did. It was a terrific film. But again, I'm sure there's plenty out there that many people are probably discrediting or have never heard about. And it's sad. It's unfortunate and it's sad. It gives us a good segue into my final question since we're coming up to the top of the hour. I sent you a little link for this podcast I listen to a lot called Perfect Movie, where these two gentlemen basically discuss a bunch of movies, basically set out on the 4 rules which they consider to be representative of a perfect movie. If you give me a second, I'll read them out like one shot. A perfect movie creates the world it exists in, wholly sustains that world, regardless of changes in society, retains its meaning and entertainment value, and is never placed in any preferential or numerical order. Each film is perfect in its own scale. So with that, they've had RoboCop, they've had Pee Wee Herman, they've had this movie you really like, the Charlton Heston movie. I keep forgetting the name. The one with the bomb. What's it called again?
With the
The
uh
what's it called again? The one with the one shot, the Orson Welles movie.
oh yeah, Touch of Evil.
Touch of Evil. Touch of Evil is a perfect movie. So, to you, in your personal scale, what constitutes a perfect movie? What is a perfect, and what would you say is a perfect movie? And what's a perfect movie? What's your perfect movie?
Um, I don't think I necessarily agree with the rules. Uh, I don't think I think they're good rules for screenwriting, but not for a movie. A movie is about more than just the setting. If you just look at the director's job, the director could have like one setting, or yeah, you could say that one setting would be a world, but for me, a movie is more about emotions than about. It's more about making your making your emotional being um, be into the movie than making your rational being into the movie. And that, to me, those rules seems like it's more like a rationalization of how a
Hmm.
movie should be.
Okay.
I like it when I go see a film and I'm moved. And if I'm not moved, then it's not a good film.
It has to move you. You have to walk out
It has to move
impacted.
me exactly. Or and if you just take that rule, you discard a lot of films. That's why I can say I don't care for Nolan
Okay.
because he hasn't moved me. I go and see his films and it's just Batman moving around and people upside down in inside somebody's brain, and I just don't feel connected to that. But if you look at someone like Lynch, and in a Lynch film, you feel like you're you're in control, and Lynch is taking you on a journey where the story is not really that important.
Okay.
There's a story or half a story, and he's it's kind of a pretense. He's using this half story to make you feel something. And what he makes you feel is very ingrained in America
Okay.
or Americana. Like when you look at the first shots from Blue Velvet, and you have this moving camera with people from the suburbs just smiling and waving, but you feel that it's all a facade. You understand that in in the suburbs, everything is a facade,
Mm-hmm.
right? In the suburbs in America, everything is a facade. Those people aren't real. They're not being true to themselves, and they're not being true to what America is. And you feel that without dialogue, without story. It's just an image, right? A very simple image. You look at I think it's the opening shot of Mulholland Drive,
Mm-hmm.
where you have these people dancing. Before you see anything, you have these people dancing, and this shot just throws, happiness at you. It doesn't mean anything. You haven't seen the story yet, so you can't place it. You don't know what it means in the story, but just this shot is true happiness. It's to me because I love dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Dancing is true happiness. There's no before, there's no after. It's just dance, and that's what to me that shot. That's what it means. When I see a David Lynch film, these things which are not about story, they're about emotion. They're about how it hits me are the most important things.
Wow.
Within the rules, I don't see that. I don't see that working. You know.
So you just blew my mind just now. It's like, I never thought of it that way, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to go think about it right now and internalize this wave of emotion. It was a you certainly sell a good point as always, my friend.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
the David Lynch films are really good for that. Like I remember. I don't even remember the whole film, but I remember scenes. Like you look at Blue Velvet and this scene where Dennis Hopper is inhaling the oxygen. Like the scene where he's the father, but he's really a really messed up father. He's a really messed up father figure, and
He's
he's
not a good.
inhaling, and you're like, my
What?
God, that's a really messed up scene.
He's a messed up
And you don't
actor.
remember the before, you don't remember the after, but you remember the impact of that scene.
Know what it had on
You know,
you.
and sometimes it feels like you can't even like it's been put in the story, but it's not part of the story. It's kind of a timeless image of the messed up father, the this character that you get away from, like when you're there and you have to deal with, but when you're not young and you're an adult, you have to get away from. You have to develop your own thing. Like you could build this whole uh, psychological story around just this image.
Just this image, the entire happiness of the moment. That is
Yeah.
insane. That is insane. Eric, this has been such a warm and so insightful conversation as always. I'm sorry that we don't get to do this as often as we should, but thank you so much for actually being here and sharing your insight and sharing your wealth of knowledge because it is a very singular one. I can't thank you enough. What would be your personal recommendations for anybody walking into this realm of screenwriting and wanting to pursue their creativity, not just in filmmaking, but overall, just some words of wisdom from your personal experience with independent filmmaking and the trials and tribulations you might come from, the contentions of having to deal with creative block and everything. So, what would you leave us with in terms of a path towards awesomeness? How would you lead us towards that?
Uh, it's hard for me because I'm always struggling with the creative aspects of it, and I have my own shortcomings when it comes to writing and directing, and sometimes I feel like I don't do it enough, that I should be doing it more, that I should be involved more. I would say be true to yourself, because people will always want you to do specific things, and you should do them if you feel them, but if you don't feel them, don't do them. And to do that, you have to know who you are. You have to understand what your personality is and
Okay.
what you want to do. What your personality is, and what your goal is. What do you want your legacy to be? And I think to be thinking about who you are and what you want to leave behind is a lifelong process. What, as you're in that lifelong process, if you're creating things to work out through it, I think you'll be okay. And I think that's what I would tell people. Like Herzog, I would say, read, 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 read. And like Stephen King, I would say, write, 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 and create, create, create. And I think other than that, let's let the chips fall where they may.
And we'll see where the road leads. That is so inspiring. Thank you so much. I couldn't have said it better. See, this is where I wanted you on, because this infectious passion that you just communicate all the time, and then I think that people should actually tap into and understand that you do have that creative fuel inside of you. And again, we struggle. We are human beings. Life happens, and obligations will come. And like you said, shortcomings do happen. And thank you for being so candid and open and honest about your own personal shortcomings, because I know it's probably not easy, especially as such a passionate creative. But then again, all I can wish you is the best of success in all your endeavors. And again, we will share coffee or tea from time to time. I think we're due to see each other at Corali's next week. You guys coming?
Yeah, totally. And I think at one point,
Sure.
you, me, Coralie, we should just sit down and hang. It's been a
We should
while.
do that. We should do that. We should definitely do that. And hey, it's like, just life happens and time just flies, and then we got to slow down. We got to slow down and absolutely take some time.
Totally.
Take some. But again, for all the viewers and everybody who tuned in, thank you so much. This has been episode 8 of the DayLight webcast. My guest has been Eric Lafalaise, a screenwriter, director, all-around awesome guy. You can find his musings at kino-real.com or kinoreal, just one word, on Twitter. Please send a hate mail towards him. Like I told you, I warned you in the beginning. The controversy is something that he does often, and if you really want his perspective on Ang Lee's Hulk, we're not going to get into it, but just put that in your subject line, and he will fire back. And you'll be pretty surprised of what he has to say about it. I'll just leave it at that. Eric, again, thank you so much, my friend. Again, do send my best wishes to Anna. And again, we'll definitely see each other as soon as possible. We'll lock that down and actually have a coffee. And as always, you know what I say, stay awesome. To everyone, thank you for tuning in, and all the best, and always be blessed.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, Eric. Have a great day.
You too.